want to start by with an apology to, Broncos country.
No, Justin, we're sorry. You were the one who rode with us, Justin. No.
I know the last few years have been tough, to watch and just not winning, not being in the postseason.
I'm not crying, you're crying. You are crying, but we're all crying. That said, I hope Simmons plays for a contender. No player in the league deserves to feel the thrills of a playoff win more than Justin Simmons. I do not like letting Simmons go, but I understand why it must be done. Just like the colonoscopy I'll endure next year after I turn 40. Ugh. Speaking of anal leakage, the Bills are squeezing every dime they can off the top of their salary cap. And the worst position to play this offseason? Safety, because there are now an official 1,100 available in free agency. I'll break down the Broncos cuts, the Bills cuts, and get sexy with the Steelers, who are now officially the first team to show real interest in quarterback Russell Wilson. Today's episode is sponsored by Ridge.com/thatsgood. Ridge wallets are game changers for simplifying your wallet, keys, and everyday carry essentials. Unless the thing you carry every day is the burden of your team underperforming. Now, Ridge can't help you there, but they do have NFL team wallets now. Ridge has 30 plus colors to choose from in addition to the team options. It can hold up to 12 cards plus cash while staying slimmer than our chances of accurately mocking the first round of the draft. Ridge features RFID blocking materials protecting you from digital thieves. Do you lose your keys or wallet frequently? I don't. But my wife does, which is why the AirTag feature is awesome to locate your stuff. So use my link below, go to ridge.com/thatsgood to get up to 30% off through April 1st. Don't be a fool on April Fool's Day. Use my link. Again, Ridge has a lifetime warranty, over 80,000 five-star reviews, and a 99-day risk-free trial for you to test out their wallets. Chris Jones posted this photo. Some think this means he's coming back to Kansas City. It certainly looks like he's coming in this picture. Only Andy Reid's wife has seen this view of Andy until the Super Bowl, and you just can't replace chemistry like that. Free agency begins next week, okay? And while we assumed more cap casualties would be coming, I did not foresee the deaths of contracts reaching Normandy levels for guys who play in the secondary. The Giants will let Xavier McKinney hit free agency. The Saints are letting Marcus May walk, Geno Stone, Kyle Duggar, Cameron Curl, Julian Blackmon. The Eagles released Kevin Byard and Avonte Maddox. Seattle cut Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. The Patriots cut J.C. Jackson. The Bills released Jordan Poyer, Tre White, and we already knew Miah Hyde wasn't coming back. If you are an NFL team, this is a great time to sign a veteran safety. If you are a safety, this is a horrible time to try and get paid in free agency. Here's what I think we've learned from this. Teams are not valuing the secondary, especially safeties like they used to. We're finding out that teams are putting more stock into their pass rush.
D-line dominate, they lose their emotion, man. Everything start out front.
Than they are the players that aren't near the ball, snap in and snap out. And honestly, I think that's a reaction to the 49ers and the Chiefs, two teams who have been smart enough to invest up front rather than in corners and safeties. It's exactly why the Chiefs might be okay trading away L'Jarius Sneed. They're confident they can replace those back-end players through the draft, and I think the rest of the NFL is starting to follow suit. That said, the Buffalo Bills are blowing it up. We expected the Bills to make some tough roster moves after their season ended. They were, I think, dead last in cap space, but we didn't expect the red wedding. A lot of this had to happen because the bill for Josh Allen is due, and of course the massive contract they gave Von Miller, who's unfortunately been something of a non-factor since coming to Buffalo and then getting injured. The Bills did rework Von's contract along with Rasul Douglas, who they traded for mid-season in 2023, but they still had to let go of a lot of key guys. The big losses were their 2017 first-round pick corner, Tre'Davious White, who struggled through injury for a couple years, but is really good when healthy. Tough call, but it makes a little bit of sense, as Taron Johnson and Christian Benford had some of the top coverage grades last season per Pro Football Focus. Also per my eyes. They are good enough per me. The ones, though, that really hurt are center Mitch Morse and their leader at safety, Jordan Poyer, who now joins his running mate, Miah Hyde, in free agency. They also let returner Deontay Hardy, a former All-Pro who had a huge 96-yard punt return against the Dolphins last year to help Buffalo clinch the AFC East. Don't worry, though, they did sign their former backup quarterback, Mitch Trubisky. Disaster averted. Trubisky is expected to be a two-way player, backup quarterback and safety, obviously. Buffalo did sign safety Taylor Rapp to a 3-year deal. He's been in the league since 2019, but is just 26. Poyer was 32, Hyde 33. So for Buffalo, I think it's about getting younger and healthier in the secondary, in addition to trimming that cap space. Losing Poyer and Hyde, or as Sean McDermott called them, the Twin Towers, really is the end of an era for Buffalo. McDermott said, "Don't be sad they're gone. Be thankful for the strategic way in which the terrorists demonstrated teamwork to take them down." They were one of the most fun duos to watch over the last 5 years. The Bills are certainly stripping down, but they're not in a situation that worries me. With the growing popularity of international players in that program, look for McDermott to sign more Saudi players than any team ever. Buffalo has Josh Allen, okay? They have a top 5 QB who gives them all the time they need to retool their roster, even if this offseason isn't perfect. They've tried the all-in approach, and it didn't work. The good news in the NFL is no way, no approach is guaranteed to work. Having a top 5 QB means you can eat shit once every couple seasons. Keep in mind the Bills have 11 draft picks. They can package any number of their late round picks to get an extra in the 3rd or possibly even the 2nd round. Replacing or getting secondary depth is very obtainable for the Bills. In a much shittier position than the Bills, my Broncos. The Denver Broncos did release safety Justin Simmons. Simmons was drafted by Denver and has been with the team for 8 long seasons. He's a pillar in the Denver community, and even though his release stings, burns, hurts, it's like torture, don't even think about it, McDermott. It makes sense. And I hate to see Justin go, but not as much as I have hated watching mediocre football for the last 8 fucking years. The fact that Broncos fans love Justin Simmons so much, even though our team has done nothing but let us down every year, should tell you how special he is. Since Peyton Manning retired, the Denver Broncos have tried everything to return to the playoffs. Drafting quarterbacks high, signing veteran QBs, trading for QBs, making splash free agent signings. The last remaining option is to strip it all down and rebuild the team in the manner Sean Payton sees fit. I respect all the players on the Broncos roster, but I'm at the point where if they gotta move half of them to get better, even if we're accused of tanking come October 1st, I don't care. Part of that process, the difficult part, is saying goodbye to the types of players who have been there through all of the hell with us. 8 years in Denver for Simmons, one of the best safeties in the league, 30 interceptions. He literally has picked off Patrick Mahomes more than any other player on earth, and he's never played a single snap in the GD postseason. Not a single person in the Broncos building feels good about this move. But to get back to being a competitive unit requires blowing that shit up. And there's gonna be some casualties, or as Sean McDermott calls it, collateral damage. It requires guys Sean Payton believes in and guys who aren't going to be offended by how the Broncos handled the Russell Wilson situation. Now, the Broncos winning games last season, getting hot when they did, really fucked them over this offseason. I get why they decided to keep Simmons, Judy, and Cortland Sutton, all guys who were on the trade block before the deadline. I gotta give Ted Wynn his props, tweeting that Jerry Jeudy has gotta be the longest tenured player on the trade block in NFL history. That's hilarious. The Broncos had just started to turn it around, and they had to decide whether to keep those guys and keep pushing forward, and that was their choice. But if they knew that they would miss the playoffs, that Russ would not evolve and they would definitely cut him, and they'd have to release Justin Simmons in March for cap space, they would have traded him before the deadline. An extra 4th or 5th round pick would sound pretty tight right now. It would. For a team that only has 6 picks and no second rounder, I'd take a 5th and 6th from Philly, which they gave up for Kevin Byard. Terrell Edmonds was a part of that trade, so maybe Simmons would have even netted a 4th. I'd take a 3rd for Sutton, or a 2nd for Judy, or vice versa. However the shit would have worked. I get the rebuild approach, but thinking we could salvage last season is now biting us in the ass. And losing Justin Simmons is much harder than Russell Wilson for Broncos fans. Now, the Steelers are the first team to set up a meeting with old Dangerous Wilson. There's mutual interest there. Now, the Steelers have made sense for Russell Wilson for a while now. Is Russell Wilson an upgrade over Kenny Pickett? At the moment, I believe so. It's really tough to gauge Kenny because as soon as the Steelers liberated themselves from the socialist nightmare that was Matt Canada, Pickett got injured. Now, I mentioned this on GPS Wednesday, but I want to elaborate on these Russell Wilson metrics and how they apply to, say, the Steelers or whoever his next team is. Here's your warning, guys, okay? Warren Sharp went through all of Russell Wilson's passes and discovered that in 2023, Russ threw the ball behind the line of scrimmage 27% of the time and threw 62% of his passes within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. No QB in the league threw it short more than Russ, and not just last year, but dating all the way back to 2005.
Diarrhea poop.
Now, if you have Christian McCaffrey or maybe a Tyreek Hill, that might be a great way to attack the defense. Maybe your short passes function as an extension of your run game. Not with Russell Wilson. Sharp was on Denver radio this morning. Okay, Warren went on Denver radio and I just happened to be listening. I never listen, but I was in the car. It felt like destiny for today's episode. I actually passed a car with the Michigan sticker on it while they were talking about Russell Wilson's deficiencies. So JJ McCarthy, you are a Bronco based on my superstition. Now, despite having the largest percentage of behind the line of scrimmage throws and the highest percentage of throws within 5 yards, he still took longer than any quarterback in the league to get rid of the ball, which means he has the processing speed of a Gen 1 Apple computer. If a complete NFL quarterback is, say, an iPhone, Russell Wilson is a fucking calculator. Very accurate, but only does a couple things well and efficiently. The only guy who took longer to get rid of the ball was Justin Fields, so there you go. But wait, there's more. Denver also boasted the fewest number of intermediate passes, dating back to 2005. For a guy who has been in the league for over a decade, the fact that this part of his game has never improved is just weird. I've bitched about all of these things, okay? But having the data is nice. It makes me believe I am still somewhat football competent. The other problem with Russ, the sacks. He can no longer escape them like he used to, and he was dropped 100 times while with the Broncos, and he missed games in both seasons. That's the most taken by any quarterback the last 2 years. He beat Fields out by 1 sack there. Some of you will tell me Denver's line was bad. That's wrong. And maybe all of those years we kept blaming Seattle's line were actually on Russ. He simply cannot throw quickly with any consistency. Wilson was provided the 6th most time before getting pressured last season and was 8th worst in sack percentage. Every bit of data out there will show you he takes too many damn sacks, and it's not really close. Defend the deep ball and the check down, and Russ cannot cook. He can't even get to the store to get the ingredients. If he can't eat, he certainly doesn't need 12 toilets to shit in.
Unlimited diarrhea.
And even with all of those limitations, he might help the Steelers more than Kenny Pickett in 2024. He and Justin Fields are the same quarterback. The difference? Fields is still really fast, but Russ has the better arm. Those are Russell Wilson's biggest weaknesses, and I say that to warn the Steelers. Seahawks fans tried to warn me, but here it is for you guys. That's all the info you need. He would be a cheap ad if he's willing to play on the vet minimum. George Pickens can catch like Cortland Sutton, and the Steelers' run game really popped in the second half of the season. It's not a great idea, but it's also not the worst idea. You've been warned, Mike Tomlin. Russ has the arm and the intangibles, but none of the practicals. Do with that what you will. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports, the only sports show that fights through its stupid little cold to get you really okay episodes up on YouTube. I did it with a little stuffy nose. Are you proud of me, guys?